the vision of one man to educate the people of his land that built this institution we now so dearly love. To you we give our loyalty, to you our faith and fealty, that you may rise in fame for all the years to come. We hail you now, we praise you now, we hope you keep your torch burning, and let your spirit live forever. For in your fold we all shall gather, and be our shining star, our beacon from afar. You shall be forever be the light of Bengal Bay. We hail you now, we praise you now, we hope you keep your torch burning, and let your spirit live forever. For in your fold we all shall gather, and be our shining star, our beacon from afar. You shall be forever be the light of Bengal Bay. You shall be forever be the light of Bengal Bay.
Good morning. Happy New Normal. Welcome to our live Tribute to Parents 2021. We are so happy to see you virtually. Today is another big moment of your life as an Alfonsos. Days from now, many of you will soon enter the real world. May we never forget to honor your classmates, friends, and most importantly, your family who supported you since day one. To all Alfonsos watching from their home, click like, heart, and share to celebrate with us today. And may this virtual event be the start of brand new milestone. Join us as we are live from the campus of Governor Alfonso D. Tan College. You are watching the GADTC Virtual Tribute to Parents. To virtually welcome us all, give a warm Alfonso's welcome to the batch president, Mr. Marvilu Alab.
Good day, dear parents, distinguished visitors, school administrators, faculty, fellow graduates, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I have immense pride in speaking before you today. I am honored to be giving the tribute to our dear parents who have been here to guide us through these years. It may appear to be so simple, yet it is one of the most difficult tasks, thanking our parents for everything they've done for us. What are we going to thank them for? Isn't it our whole existence? It is just overwhelming. We all know how much our parents do for us, but we often ignore and take things for granted, unaware of the sacrifices they've made just to raise us. We could start thanking them for the little things, one at a time, rather than everything at once. Who would have guessed we'd be here where we are now? Are you able to recall your first day at the college? When did you become so nervous and shy since you only knew few people aside from your friends? My mother was with me during the enrollment process, I recall. We always believed we couldn't live a day without our parents because we are so delicate, naive, reliant, and immature. But as we grew more accustomed to the school life, we were able to be drawn to the new surroundings, new experiences, new learnings, new acquaintances, and at the end of the day, our parents will still wait for us wide open arms at the door. College provided an opportunity for some of us to live freely away from our parents' prying eyes. We're all curious what this planet has to offer. We began to make judgment and choices of our own. either knowing or oblivious to the potential repercussions. New things appeared as we progressed through college. We went on a walk and met a variety of individuals, making new friends and lasting friendships. Some of us must be left in our care of our landlords and landlady. We started to keep secrets, hide things, and drifted away from our parents. We didn't realize how tough it was for you to keep us in school. We disregarded the school policies that you established just to favor our needs. You had to sell some certain properties because of our demands. You took out several loans to ensure that we have enough money to complete our studies at each enrollment period. For all these reasons, we'd want to apologize for not considering the sacrifices that you've made for us. Graduates, please embrace your parents and tell them, I love you and I am sorry. Anne Frank once said, parents can only give good advice or put them into the right paths, but the final forming of a person's character lies in their own hands. This statement's accuracy can only now be fully appreciated. We must now pick where we want to go from here and what sort of person we want to be. We're constantly reliant on you, and we want to be close to you as possible. This gradually changes as you gradually educate us how to exist without you and become more self-sufficient. You have engaged emotionally, physically, psychologically, and financially in us, committing your entire life to assist us in moving forward in life. You're always there to catch us when we fall or push back into our position if we wander too far. No matter how we act or treat you, your love is always limited and always forgiving. We took advantage of that unconditional affection on several occasions, never fully appreciating what we had. We didn't recognize the difficulties and obstacles you face every day while parenting us. You performed these things without expecting anything in return, putting your interest ahead of us. You were always there for us, catching us when we fell. 1,000 words might not be sufficient to express our thanks. We'd like to credit today's achievement to all the present parents. To all the parents out there, I'd like to say this following. Parents of the graduating students, please accept my heartfelt congratulations. As a parent, you've come to the critical juncture in your life. We are grateful to our Heavenly Father for entrusting you to us. Congratulations and God bless us all.
The batch president, Mr. Marvilu Alab. We may not be in the Sinanduloy gym, but today we are still live in your screen, giving all the best we can offer for today's special virtual event. Speaking about special, let us all watch this special video presentation of the graduating class. Let's take a look.
I've been to so many moments in my life where I can find anyone to turn to but you.
Thank you, graduating class. What is a college life without your amazing but sometimes scary staff and professors? To give a message of thanks to our dear Alfonso's faculty and staff, please welcome our former SSC Governor, Ms. Aralicia May T. Bulisig.
Teachers have three loves: the love for learning, the love for learners, and bringing the two first love together. To the entire faculty and staff of our beloved alma mater, Governor Alfonso D. Tan College, you all have contributed to our success, and thank you will never be enough for all that you have done for us. You have molded us to be a better version of ourselves. You have never doubted our dreams. Instead, you have pushed us and prepared us to reach it. You held our hands and guided us from the start until the very end, and our journey will never be the same without all of you. Our dear faculty and staff, we will forever remember the moments that we had, from walking past by each other from the hallway and to attending your classes and everything in between. Thank you for helping us light up our stars. We will forever be grateful to all of you, and we will not choose any other way to spend our college life, but with all of you, in this very place, in this very institution, our beloved alma mater, Governor Alfonso D. Tan College. Thank you, and forever we are grateful. Truly, we are the light of the world.
Thank you, Ara. To mark our first virtual tribute to parents with Alfonso's pride, friends, parents, and ladies and gentlemen, our first college president, Dr. Maricel M. Nueva.
Alfonso's graduating students, proud parents, guardians, benefactors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good day kanatong tanan. Few hours na lang gyud, graduation na. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. Daghan gyud ang congratulations. Kay dili lang para sa mo graduate ang atong congratulations, but para pod sa mga ginikanan, sa mga mentors, sa mga faculty and staff. Congratulations mga faculty and staff kay nakaumol gyud mo ug nakaproduce og mga Alfonsos nga buutan ug kugihan. Alfonsos nga committed mahimong light of the world. Congratulations, proud parents, mga nanay, mga tatay, papa, mama, mga benefactors. Congratulations kay nakapahuman gyud mo sa inyong mga anak. Congratulations kay nagbunga gyud ang inyong mga paningkamot ug sakripisyo. Kada commencement exercises sa GADTC, naging special nga program para sa mga parents. Kaning atong gihimo karon ang Tribute to Parents, kamong mga ginikanan ang sentro ni ini nga program. I won't make my message long, kay ang star karon, star sa Tribute to Parents, mauman gyud ang mga ginikanan. But naalang ko'y i-share gamay nga story. Naay usa ka king, tigulang na ang king, and he felt that it was to name one of his sons who were triplets, his successor. But since he loved and respected them equally well, so he did not know how to make a choice. So he sent them to a distant land and promised that the one who would come back, kanang mubalik, no, with the most useful learning would get the birthright. So the three, katong tulo niya ka mga anak, went off to a distant land, attended universities, nang eskwela sila, and then flew around the world, learned marvelous things. Ang first brother, nag-invent siya og magic glass by which he could see any place he wished to see on earth in 5 minutes lang. Nya ang second brother, nag-invent siya og magic carpet on which he could sat and zoomed him to any part of the earth in 5 minutes gihapon. Nya ang third brother, nag-invent siya, nag-magic siya og medicine, tambal, no? So that he could cure any sickness. One day, the three, katong tulo ka man nagsuon, the three came together for a birthday party and told what they have found. The first brother saw, nakita niya, his father dying. Ang isa, zoomed through the air and they were at home in 5 minutes. Ug ang ikatulong nga brother took out his magic medicine and cured his father at once. The king, katong ilang papa, could not decide which one was to have the birthright, since it took all three of them to save his life. If any one of them had not helped, the other two could not help either. Ladies and gentlemen, parents, teachers, to mga graduating students, that is like Christian and true education nga gikinahanglan to have a stable nation. Christian education nagkinahanglan gyud og home, church, and school. Ug kabalo ba mo, as we go online, sometimes we think we have the right frequency and quantity of communication. But soon we find out that we fail to build mutual understanding. A week ago, mo share lang ko gamay, no, I was in a restaurant, no, nangaon mi sa restaurant, no, I'm with my family. I observe in the other table, there's a family with 4 kids. Nay mama, nay papa, nga nay 4 ka anak. And do you know what they were doing? Tagsa sila og cellphone. Tagsa sila gadgets. Yahay pud sila duko, waiting for the food to be served. Kabalo ba mo? Psychologists warn us against lack of physical connection or lack of connection. Ma-physical man or dili physical, basta kulang og connection, gi-warn ta ana sa mga psychologists. It has adverse effects on our emotional and social well-being. True enough, we are confronted with issues like students, mga millennials, mga anak nato nga usahay dili nato masabtan. Ang uban ganin ay mga suicidal tendencies, ang uban nga mga batanon. But with the three, ang home, ang church, ug ang school, courage within us and nobility of a shared purpose, together we can rework the future of this nation. And it should start from within. At home, parents, teachers, stakeholders, padayon ta sa pagtinabangay for our children and our children's children. Dear graduating students, same sa mga teachers, parents, ako, kitang tanan, the power is within us. The answer ani nga mga challenges sa kinabuhi and issues naa gyud nato, naa within us. You are the answer to all your searches, mga graduating students. You are the goal. So amidst COVID-19 crisis and all these 21st century technologies, stay connected with your parents, stay connected with your family, your friends, and to one another. And sa mga parents, maski mo graduate na ang inyong mga anak, stay connected with them. Ug sa mga graduating students usab, maski mo graduate na mo, stay connected with your alma mater too. Again, sa mga graduating students, maski mo graduate na mo sa kolehiyo puhon, makatrabaho na mo, stay connected again with your family. Sa mga parents usab, stay connected with your children. Treasure every moment with your family. Spend time with your children. Kay adunay gikaingon ni Mother Teresa, if you want to bring happiness to the world, go home and love your family. Again, congratulations sa atong mga graduating students. Pila na lang gyud ka oras mo graduate na mo. And my salute sa atong mga parents, sa mga ginikanan. Thank you kaayo and congratulations. Salamat usab kaayo sa mga faculty and staff sa GADTC. Congratulations again to everyone. May we all stay safe, healthy, and happy. God bless us all.
Thank you, Dr. Maricel M. Nueva. Indeed, time remains the best new normal gift. Another special video presentation from our graduating class. Let's all watch this.
let you know I am so glad that I have you through all these years. I am so thankful. Now that I've grown, I'll always be thinking of you, with all the things you taught me so. Always remember, I'll be alright, I'll be okay. I will be good and running all the way. All from the heart, these things I do, I'll make you proud because I love you. I'll be alright, I'll be okay. I won't be fine and I'll be good all the way. All from the heart, these things I do, I'll make you proud because I do. I love you so. I will stand tall and I will try not to fall as I reach all of my goals. I will go on and I will move on, all because of you. For you, I'll be alright, I'll be okay. I will be good and learning all the way. All from the heart, these things I do, I'll make you proud because I love you. I'll be alright, I'll be okay. I will be fine and I'll be good all the way. All from the heart, these things I do, I'll make you proud because I do. I love you so. I love you so. I love you so. Mula sa silang pupunan, damang iyong pagmamahal. Tindig ng puso mo, siyang naging buhay ko. Ako'y iyong inalagaan, hindi lang sa siyam na buwan, kundi sa lahat ng panahon na nagdaan. Sa buhay kong taglay, ang pasasalamat ko, inay. Sa awitin kong ito, ipapahiwatig ko, itay. Ang pasasalamat na ibibigay sa musikang iaalay. Maraming salamat sa inyo. Salamat kaayo. Kalong umaga pa lang, dinuduyan
Thank you, graduating class. GADTC is now truly in the new light horizon. We owe it to you, our dear Alphonsus, and to our next speaker, sharing her message Please welcome the Chairman of the Board of Trustees and our City Mayor, Dr. Jennifer Witan.
Mayong adlaw sa tanan, mga minahal o pinalanggang ginikanan, nga sama nako. Kining adlawa, anaa nagsagol ang mga pagbati nga kaguol o kalipay. Kaguol tungod kay ang atong mga anak nga atong gituuhan nga mga bata pa karon dili na. Anaa na sila'y pako, andam na mulupad. Kalipay kay nakahuman na sila sa ilang pag-eskwela. Ang mga oras ug adlaw nga inyong gibubo sa pagpaningkamot nga mahatag ang ilang panginahanglan, nahimo ra gyud. Nakaginhawa na mo og gamay, pero mangutana mo, nganong gamay raman? Timani ang atong pag-amuma sa atong mga anak, wala mahumad sa ilang graduation, pero padayon gihapon kamo sa paghatag og giya nga aron sila dili masalaag. Wala gayoy kahumanan ang atong pagpangga sa atong mga anak. Sa kadaghang higayon, nakita nako kung giunsa pagkamang ninyong mga ginikanan ang edukasyon sa inyong mga anak. Walay puas nga pagpangga, walay undang nga pag-atiman, labi pa ang sakripisyo nga gihatag ninyo sa inyong anak. O di ba apo? Ako mahinumdum sa usa ka sugilanon nga angayang ipaambit kaninyo karon. Bahin kini sa usa ka batang lalaki ug usa ka kahoyng mansanas. Ug ako kining ipaambit kaninyo ang katibuk-an. Niadtong dugay ng panahon, dunay usa ka dahong punuan sa mansanas. Adunay usa ka bata nga ganahan kaayong magdula. Libot ni ini kada adlaw. Musaka siya sa kinatumya ni ini, mukaon sa mansanas ug matulog sa landing ni ini. Nagmahal siya ug nagamping sa kahoy ug ang bata nagmahal usab ug nagamping sa kahoy. Minglagbay ang panahon, ang bata midako na ug wala na siya nagdula-dula libot sa kahoy kada adlaw. Usa ka adlaw, ang bata mibalik sa kahoy nga murag naguol. Dali magdula ta, miingon ang kahoy. Dili naman ko bata, dili na ko magdula-dula libot sa kahoy, ting tubag ang bata. Gusto ko og mga dulaan, nagkinahanglan ko og kwartang ipalit. Pasaylo, apan wala ako'y kwarta, apan mamahimong imong pupuon ang tanan nakong mansanas aron imong mabaligya. Dayon, may kwarta na ikaw. Nalipay ang bata. Gipupo niya ang tanang mansanas ug iyang gibaligya. Ang bata, wala na mobalik, human iyang nakuha ang mansanas. Ang kahoy naguol. Usa ka adlaw, ang bata nga karon hingkod na, mibalik, ug ang kahoy nalipay. Dali, magdula ta, miingon ang kahoy. Wala na ko'y panahong pagdula. Kinahanglan na akong magtrabaho alang sa akong pamilya. Nagkinahanglan mi og balay, kapasilungan. Imo ba kong mahatagan? Miingon ang bata. Pasaylo ako. Apan, wala ko'y balay. Apan pwede imong putlon ang akong mga sanga aron imong mahimong balay, miingon ang kahoy. Unya, pagkahuman nga giputol sa bata ang mga sanga, milakaw kini nga malipayon. Ang kahoy usab nagmalipayon. Kay nakakita man siya sa bata nga malipayon. Apan, wala na makabalik ang bata pagkahuman ni adto. Nagmasulubon ug naguol pagbalik ang maong kahoy. Usa ka adlaw, ang bata mibalik ug ang kahoy nalipay kaayo. Ali, magdula ta, ingon ang kahoy. Apan miingon ang bata, nagkatigulang na ako. Gusto na ko nga magpaharuray. Pwede ba ko nimo mahatagan og sakayan? Gamita akong punuan para paggama sa imong sakayan, para ikaw malipay nga maglawig sa kadagatan, ingon ang kahoy. Giputol sa bata ang punuan sa kahoy para makagama og sakayan, ug naglawig siya sa kadagatan sa dugay nga panahon. Ug miabot ang panahon sa pila ka tuig nga ming labayng ang bata mibalik apan ang kahoy miingon, pasaylo ako, akong pinangga. Wala na ako'y mahatag kanimo. Wala na ang mansanas para nimo. Walay problema. Ingon ang bata, wala na usab ko'y ngipon para magamit sa pagkaon. Mitubag ang bata. Wala na'y punuan para imong kakatkatan. Ang kahoy miingon, ay, tigulang na usab ako, ingon sa bata. Wala na ako'y mahatag kanimo. Ang nabili na lang nako, ang kamatyunon nga ugat, ang kahoy mitubag, nga mihilak. Wala na ko'y gusto, karon apan akong gikinahanglan, lugar kung aha ko makapahulay. Gikapoy nako sa mga nilabay nga katuigan nga ako'y naglaag-laag, ang tawo mitubag. Ay, maayo, ang ugat niini nga akong punuan ang nindot nga lugar nga kapahulayan. Ali, lingkod og pagpahulay. Ang kahoy miingon. Ang tawo milingkod sa ugat ug ang kahoy mihilak sa kalipay. Mao kini ang sugilanon nga angay panaminan sa tanan. Ang kahoy samara nga atong mga ginikanan. Ni atong bata pa kita, ganahan kaayo ta makig-uban ug makigdula sa atong mama ug papa. Apan pagkadako nan atuan na silang gibiyaan. Ato ra sila nga bisitahon ug kun aduna tay kikinahanglan. O di ba ka naata sa problema? Bisan unsaon pa ang ginikanan, anaa gayud permi, andam ug tagana nga buhaton ang tanan para ikaw nga anak malipay. Makahuna-huna ta nga walay batasan ang batang sa atong nakita sa istorya adto sa kahoy, apan mao kini ang mga buhat ug giunsan nato pagdala ang atong ginikanan. Ato sila nga nakalimtan ug wala na nato matagaan og pagtagad. Wala nato makita ang ilang sakripisyo nga gibuhat para kanato hangtod ulahin na ang tanan. Ang pag-ila sa ilang kontribusyon sa kung kinsa o unsa naman ta karon, dili gayud ikalimod. Mga graduates, atong tagaan ug pasidungog ang tinuod nga mga bayani. Ang inyong mga ginikanan, daghan kiing salamat sa inyong tiunay ug walay puas nga pagpangga sa atong mga graduates. Daghang kay salamat and congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, our Chairman of the Board of Trustees and our City Mayor, Dr. Jennifer Witan. Joining us today is our visionary leader and the father of the province of Misamis Occidental, our dear Alfonsos. Please welcome Governor Philip Titan.
To all the graduates, I sincerely congratulate all of you for having another victory in your life. And in spite of the uncertainties that we are facing today, we may not be sure of what lies ahead. We may not be sure if the skills and the lessons you have learned today are still applicable in the future. But always remember this, that everything can be learned. New things can be learned. What is permanent and what will always stand out are the values of a good Christian that your school, your church, the Bible, and your parents have taught you. I want you to dream big and aim high and never be afraid to fail. And when you are there on top, always remember this. It's not about having lots of money, a nice car, a nice home. It's not about what you have. It's not about the titles and positions you are in. because you cannot bring it with you. It's about being able to help others. It's about what you do with what you have. It's about saving someone's life. It's all about pulling in somebody to succeed like you. It's about making a difference. It's about putting a smile in someone else's face. And when you make our Father in Heaven smile, that's where you succeed. Sa atong mga graduates, I thank you for being able to attain this victory in your life. Congratulations. Alang sa atong mga ginikanan, congratulations sa inyong tanan. Among gibati ang kalisod sa inyong giagian tungod kay kami usab usa ka ginikanan. Ato karong nasinati ang kalisod sa panahon, panbisad pantuod sa laing nahitabo nga pamaagi sa pagtuon, nilampos gihapon kita. Hinoon, ato karong nasinati ang kahiusahan sa panimalay, tungod kay ang atong mga anak naaraman sa atong balay nagtuon. O nanghinaot ko nga diya sa atong panimalay, nasinati sa atong mga kabatanunan ang pagbinahalay o pagtinabangay. Tungod kay human ining tanan nga sila mulampos silang pag-eskwela o sila manarbaho kada adlaw muli gihapon sa ilang tagsa-tagsa ka panimalay puhon. Ang ilang kasinatian karon sa ilang panimalay, sa inyong panimalay, mahimo usab nga dakong kahigayunan nila nga mahimong pagtulunan. Giunsa nato pagdala ang atong kabatanunan, paggiya o pagdisiplina niining panahona nga magamit nila puhon sa ilang tagsa-tagsa ka panimalay. And of course, ang inyong gihatag nga pagsuporta o pagtulunan nila sa simpleng pamaagi diha sa pagtinahuray o pagkigugmaay, pagpasensyahay o pagtinabangay, mahimo kaning dakong tabang nila sa ilahang pagpamuyo puhon. Daghang salamat and I wish you all congratulations. God bless everyone.
Since today is our virtual tribute to parents, joining us live via Zoom are a few guardians and parents. Ma'am and sir, good morning.
Mayong adlaw kanatong tanan ug malipayong pagsaulog sa 35 commencement exercise ug ang pinakaunang virtual graduation. Malipayong pagsalmot sa tanang mga ginikanan, mga pamilya ug higala ug daghang salamat sa inyong mga sakripisyo, sa inyong paglahutay, mga pag-ampo aron makalampos ang atong mga anak sa ilang pag-eskwela niining tulunghaan. Kini usa ka malipayong adlaw sa pagsaulog, dili lang kini sa kalampusan sa atong mga anak, kundi kalampusan usab natong ginikanan, mga pamilya o higala nga nagsuporta kanila. Kini usab kalampusan sa mga tawo nga nagpaluyo ani sa kasaulugan. Ilabi na ning tulunghaan sa GADTC nga makanunayong yud kamo sa inyong misyon sa paghatag libre og dili kalidad nga edukasyon sa among mga anak. Dili kalimod ang atong mga pagpanimbasog sa adlaw-adlaw, ilabi na ang atong kalibutan nagatubang sa dakong krisis sa pandemya sa COVID-19. Tataw man kaayo ang mga panghitabo sa atong nasod ug ang kalisod na atong nahayaguman. Kini bag-o sa atong tanan ug wala kita nakaprepare niini. Sa mga kabaghuan sa atong sistema sa edukasyon virtual, usa kini sa dakong hagit kanatong tanan. Ilabi na sa pagpangita og signal sa internet ug pagpangita og pamaagi aron naay maggamit ang atong mga anak sa ilang pag-eskwela. Kining panahon na dako usab nahagi sa atong mga magtutudlo nga naningkamot gayud nga makakat-on ang atong mga anak. Isip usa ka ginikanan, dakong kalipay namong mga ginikanan na makalampos ang atong mga anak bisan sa kapitos sa atong pagpangita og kalisod sa panahon. Mapasalamaton ko sa tanang graduar karon, lakit na niini akong anak. Salamat kaayo sa inyong paningkamot ug pagig-unong hangtod kamo mulampos. Naaman mi daghang mga kulangon sa among pagsuporta kaninyo. Apan dako among pagsalig sa dunggon sa atong Ginoo ang atong mga pag-ampo. tuod man iya kining gigasa kanato ang maong kalampusan sa atong mga anak. Sa tanang mga mograduar karon, manghinaot kaming mga ginikanan, mga guardian ug mga nagsuporta kaninyo. Ningkamot ug mag-ampo sa kanunay. Ang paggraduar sa kolehiyo wala nagpasabot na natapos na ang pagtuon. Tuod man natapos na kamo sa pagtuon sa akademiko na pamaagi. Apan ang pagtuon sa pagkinabuhi na matarong dili matapos nining adlaw kundi adlaw-adlaw kitang nagatubang niini. Sa tulonghaan sa GADTC, salamat na wala ninyo pakyasa ang among mga pagsalig. Isip usa ka ginikanan nga mao'y duha ka anak nga nag-eskwela sa GADTC. Mapasalamaton ko sa inyong pagbiya sa among mga anak. Sa local unit ug Tanggob City nga gipanguluhan sa atong maaktibong Mayor Jennifer Witan sa pagsuporta o pagdasig sa kabataan sa paghuman sa ilang mga eskwela para sa ilahang kaugmaon. Sa dakong pagpasalamat sa labing makagagahong na amahan sa inyong kaluoy ug paghigugma, ako usam ginikanan nga namalipayong nagsalmot sa ika-35 na commencement exercise sa GADTC tuig 2021. Daghang salamat ug malipayong adlaw kanatong tanan.
Hello guys, I am Kenneth Cabanday Rodriguez, the guardian and brother of Raymar Rodriguez. To start, I want to thank God for the opportunity today to speak on behalf of the guardians and parents, the Institute of Arts and Sciences, the staff, and the teachers all over the world who always find ways to service our students, and to the students for their hard work. Especially to the guardians and the parents for their hardships and sacrifices to continue supporting their children financially and morally amidst the pandemic. Life is hard, but with our faith and sincere prayers to God, together with hard work, we will achieve our goals. I remember that my college days in GADTC was very difficult since we no longer had parents to support us because my mom died and my dad, let's just say, he went his own ways. I had to work hard to finish my studies. I landed a job here in Lapu-Lapu City in a call center company and was able to send my brother to school together with the consistent financial support of my uncle, Isidro Tito Cabanday, together with his wife, Marisa Torres Cabanday. To all the graduates of AB Communications, congratulations for completing your studies. Always remember that this is not the end, but a new beginning, a new chapter of your lives. Always be kind, God bless you, and stay safe.
To present the awards and certificates to our parents and guardians, Alphonsus give a warm virtual welcome to our GADTC Council of Deans. Institute of Arts and Sciences, Dean, Mr. Clint Joy M. Kihi.
Graduation is the reason to celebrate and also the reason to thank those who have helped the graduates achieve this goal. The day is finally here. This is not just the success of the graduates, but also the parents because they have worked hard for it. Because of their love, support, and sacrifices, the graduates are now reaping the fruits of their labor. Congratulations to all the graduating students and to their proud parents. These are the proud parents of our graduating students from the Institute of Arts and Sciences. Mr. and Mrs. Artemio R. Añasco, proud parents of Bolisig Aralicia May. Mr. and Mrs. Nestor Maning, Proud parents of Asil Cheryl, Mr. and Mrs. Jose Cusmod, proud parents of Berioso Josel, Mr. and Mrs. Pedro M. Carbajosa, proud parents of Carbajosa Nelsie, Mr. and Mrs. Jovi Y. Eslit, proud parents of Islit Joselmi, Mr. and Mrs. Candido B. Jimeno Jr., proud parents of Jimeno Aljun Carlo, Mr. and Mrs. Leonardo Maca, proud parents of Maca Lovely Jane, Mr. and Mrs. Abdul Malik M. Ampang, proud parents of Ampang Kashim, Mr. and Mrs. Mamulo F. Villamero, proud parents of Villamero Crisan, Mr. and Mrs. Seriaco A. Abaa, proud parents of Abaa Ana, Mr. and Mrs. Samuel U. Andujar, proud parents of Andujar Sara, Mr. and Mrs. Romel G. Castillon, proud parents of Castillon Roseline, Mr. and Mrs. Joel T. Quaresma, proud parents of Quaresma Sunshine, Mr. and Mrs. Franel Dalayat, proud parents of Dalayat Marilyn, Mr. and Mrs. Lauro L. Isin, proud parents of Isin Jevi, Mr. and Mrs. Romero Sabiron, proud parents of Fuentes Nora Fe, Mr. and Mrs. Sigundino Abansado, proud parents of Maghanoy Charlene, Mr. and Mrs. Ferdinand M. Maluto Sr., proud parents of Maluto Ferdinand Jr., Mr. and Mrs. Ferdinand M. Maluto Sr., proud parents of Maluto Jofermar, Mr. and Mrs. Jonji T. Pilirin, proud parents of Pilirin Gmar, Mr. and Mrs. Arthur C. Pipito, proud parents of Pipito Ryan Dave, Mr. and Mrs. Ray M. Potestas, proud parents of Potestas Charmia, Mr. and Mrs. Vicente S. Sari, proud parents of Sari Lourdes, Mr. and Mrs. Amado M. Sarial, proud parents of Sarial Jeanette, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson E. Codizar, proud parents of Codizar Charmin, Mr. and Mrs. Rogelio Landong, proud parents of Landong Mary Joy, Mr. and Mrs. Ricardo P. Rodriguez, proud parents of Rodriguez Raymart. Congratulations, benefactors, guardians, parents, and graduating students.
The Dean of Institute of Teacher Education, Dr. Alimar Mayordo.
Parents are the first teacher for their children. Being a parent is a great responsibility, most especially the pandemic crisis that we are facing today. Your unlimited love and ending care and support to your children are very commendable. To all proud parents, my salute to all your sacrifices in sending your children to school for formal education, thus giving them a brighter life in the future. Thank you also for trusting GADTC as your partner in educating your children to be a better individual in our community. The support you extend to your children and to the college is much appreciated, and you deserve such recognition. These are the proud parents of the graduating students from the Institute of Teacher Education. Mr. and Mrs. Edgar L. Ropinta, proud parents of Andila Lovejoy. Mr. and Mrs. Julius N. Nies, proud parents of Miss Mandawi Mary Amor. Mr. and Mrs. Patricio Antiola, proud parents of Timbungan Archibel Antiola. Mr. and Mrs. Edemar Pitoy, proud parents of Pitoy Mary Grace. Mr. and Mrs. Chito P. Hinog, proud parent of Hinog Kin Michael. Mr. and Mrs. Franny G. Balaba, proud parent of Balaba Alps Lorraine. Mr. and Mrs. Edgardo A. Bazar, proud parents of Bazar J. and N. Mr. and Mrs. Glicerio B. Bukhar, proud parents of Bukhar Jean. Mr. and Mrs. Noel F. Bolakinia, proud parents of Bolakinia Jonaline. Mr. and Mrs. Marlo B. Canlaon, proud parents of Canlaon Mark Angelo. Mr. and Mrs. Rico Inerio, proud parents of Estusi Rixen. Mr. and Mrs. Chito P. Hinog, proud parents of Hinog Kin Michael. Mr. and Mrs. Arnolfo Lucero, proud parents of Lucero Gisame. Mr. and Mrs. Bernardo Lumacang, proud parents of Lumacang Marilyn S. Mr. and Mrs. Nestor C. Mingok, proud parents of Mingok Estela. Mr. and Mrs. Vicente Manco, proud parents of Montuerto Jeneline. Mr. and Mrs. Solidario Natividad, proud parents of Natividad Genevieve. Mr. and Mrs. Rolly C. Pacot, proud parents of Pacot Rosemary. Mr. and Mrs. Jose Q. Tuong, proud parents of Pomikpik Marilyn. Mr. and Mrs. Leonardo S. Rosalijos, proud parents of Rosalijos Joanne. Mr. and Mrs. Giovanni V. Rosales, proud parents of Rosales Cyril Ann. Mr. and Mrs. Manuel L. Sumatra, proud parents of Sumatra Maureen. Mr. and Mrs. Victor C. Solmeron, proud parents of Solmeron Margin. Mr. and Mrs. Edsel Abi, proud parent of Abi Charamay. Mr. and Mrs. Emilio N. Catalan, proud parents of Catalan Lendilu. Mr. and Mrs. Poldarico Enerio, proud parents of Enerio John Rick. Mr. and Mrs. Ronald B. Longno, proud parents of Longno Rodilin. Mr. and Mrs. Ricardo Mahidlawan, proud parents of Mahidlawan Mariadin. Mr. and Mrs. Florentino D. Macamay Jr., proud parents of Macamay Jodian. Mr. and Mrs. Nelba C. Albufera, proud parents of Albufera Chermay. Mr. and Mrs. Guzman E. Bungabong, proud parents of Bungabong April May. Mr. and Mrs. Antonio Cabaluna, proud parents of Cabaluna Mary Grace. Mr. and Mrs. Porfirio C. Morales, proud parents of Morales Mark Angel. Mr. and Mrs. Romer R. Caberos, proud parents of Abashal Jess Mera. Mr. and Mrs. Bomar T. Bakarat, proud parents of Bakarat Nasrifa. Mr. and Mrs. Florentino Climen, proud parents of Climen Chiclet. Mr. and Mrs. Ronalo Cortez, proud parents of Cortez Rona Joy. Mr. and Mrs. Virgilio Ogahayon, proud parents of Ogahayon LV. Mr. and Mrs. Lito C. Barrido, proud parents of Barrido Brian Field. Mr. and Mrs. Jose E. Busoy, proud parents of Busoy Giovanni. Mr. and Mrs. Edeleto C. Fiel, proud parents of Fiel James. Mr. and Mrs. Aldefonso F. Maloloyon, proud parents of Maloloyon Jason. Mr. and Mrs. Agustin E. Colango, proud parents of Colango John Raymond. Congratulations, proud benefactors, parents, guardians, and graduating students.
The Dean of Institute of Business and Financial Services, Dr. Eileen Daguman.
To our dear parents, today is the right time to give you back the honor and gratitude for sending your children to GADTC. Their success would not have been possible without your love, care, and support. Thank you so much also for believing the teachers, staff, and administration of GADTC in teaching, molding, and touching the hearts and minds of your children, and most of all, in shaping their future to be a better one. Once again, thank you so much. These are the proud parents of our graduating students from the Institute of Business and Financial Services. Mr. and Mrs. Jessie L. Alingatong, proud parents of Alingatong Sara. Mr. and Mrs. Winifredo M. Almasa, proud parents of Almasa Honey. Mr. and Mrs. Eliasar R. Ayuban, proud parents of Ayuban Elmi. Mrs. Mary Grace Bragat, proud parents of Bragat Ninyo John. Mr. and Mrs. Wilfredo M. Caban, proud parents of Caban Blessed May. Mr. and Mrs. Tolentino F. Dayo, proud parents of Dayo Jacqueline. Mr. and Mrs. Elvin M. Estrelon Sr., proud parents of Estrelon April Love. Mr. and Mrs. Remuel R. Fuentes, proud parents of Fuentes Sharim May. Mr. and Mrs. Efren B. Gakang, proud parents of Gakang Venus. Mr. and Mrs. Florentino T. Haki, proud parents of Haki Flordilisa. Mr. and Mrs. Jacinto Labrador, proud parents of Labrador John Ray. Mr. and Mrs. Ronelo P. Liboon Sr., proud parents of Liboon Sheila May. Mr. and Mrs. Henry B. Lingolingo, proud parents of Lingolingo Charlene. Mrs. Geraldine L. Cartalia, proud parent of Lojumon Charlene. Mr. and Mrs. Federico O. Mica, proud parents of Mica Geneta. Mr. and Mrs. Jaime A. Mamintas, proud parents of Mamintas Honey May. Mr. and Mrs. Delphine Mamintas, proud parents of Mamintas Jason. Mr. and Mrs. Silverio S. Ortiza, proud parents of Ortiza Marigold. Mr. and Mrs. Celso E. Osamis, proud parents of Osamis Abigail. Mr. and Mrs. Charlito E. Padigos, proud parents of Padigos Cristabel. Mr. and Mrs. Danielu Cute, proud parents of Cute Erica. Mr. and Mrs. Pacifico P. Rimolta, proud parents of Rimolta John Peter. Mr. and Mrs. Cornelio Salinas Jr., proud parents of Salinas Leonelin. Mr. and Mrs. Mateo A. Sigismondo, proud parents of Sigismondo Napshali. Mr. and Mrs. Inerio P. Maaba, proud parents of Subing-Subing Stella Caris. Mrs. Arlene In Zamora, proud parent of Zamora Blake. Mr. and Mrs. Juanito C. Nuena, proud parents of Nuena Nicole. Mr. and Mrs. Rogelio Tormes, proud parents of Tormes Ronami. Mr. and Mrs. Jose C. Alfante, proud parents of Alfante Maria Elena II. Mr. and Mrs. Patrocinio A. Amihan, proud parents of Amihan Gisrel. Mr. and Mrs. Johnny L. Andag, proud parents of Andag Iris. Mr. and Mrs. Jemmy Bacalso, proud parents of Bacalso Ginbert. Mr. and Mrs. Marcelo Barcelo, proud parents of Barcelo Jack Rees. Mr. and Mrs. Rolando F. Bilano, proud parents of Bilano Franz Nicole. Mr. and Mrs. Rodolfo S. Himota, proud parents of Buagas Glaisa. Mr. and Mrs. Apolinario C. Carion, proud parents of Carion Criselda. Mr. and Mrs. Conrado de la Cruz, proud parents of Decafe L. Jane. Mr. and Mrs. Rogelio S. Eliaso, proud parents of Eliaso Shelame. Mr. and Mrs. Anastasio S. Iwican, proud parents of Iwican Richel. Mr. and Mrs. Edgar C. Iyas, proud parents of Iyas Crismain. Mr. and Mrs. Carmelo D. Hornales, proud parents of Hornales Caroline. Mr. and Mrs. Vivencio Humawan, proud parents of Humawan Jeneline. Mr. and Mrs. Gerardo S. Israel, proud parents of Israel Jennifer. Mr. and Mrs. Solomon T. Ligaray, proud parents of Ligaray Mary Estrella. Mr. and Mrs. Ruel Lopez Sr., proud parents of Lopez Ariel. Mr. and Mrs. Rinaldo P. Rivera, proud parents of Machon Rayan. Mr. and Mrs. Pepe C. Medilio, proud parents of Medilio Peljane. Mr. and Mrs. Albino R. Ocularis Sr., proud parents of Ocularis Albino Jr. Mr. and Mrs. Rodrigo S. Orgada, proud parents of Orgada Sally Joy. Mr. and Mrs. Alberto U. Ostia Sr., proud parents of Ostia Alberto Jr. Mr. and Mrs. Virgilio O. Panganiban, proud parents of Panganiban Rosel. Mr. and Mrs. Alexander M. Pangan, proud parents of Pangan Charimi. Mr. and Mrs. Ricardo F. Pelirin, proud parents of Pelirin Lovely. Mr. and Mrs. Heidi A. Redoblado, proud parents of Redoblado Marvin. Mr. and Mrs. Melchor O. Revillesa, proud parents of Revillesa Merawel. Mr. and Mrs. Anastasio Temperatora, proud parents of Temperatora Aljun. Mr. and Mrs. Rex Ricardo D. Torres, proud parents of Torres Eileen. Mr. and Mrs. Benjamin Sopamones, proud parents of Nickerson Jusa. Mrs. Aida M. Cabaluna, proud parent of Cabaluna Aisang. Mrs. Chudora Maghanoy, proud parent of Maghanoy Dorsey. Mrs. Elsie Soriano, proud parent of Soriano Romar. Mr. and Mrs. Rafael Padillo, proud parents of Padillo Jubel. Mr. and Mrs. Emma L. Halilol, proud parents of Halilol Rasali. Mr. and Mrs. Jerry M. Cabigas Sr., proud parents of Cabigas Jerry Jr. Mr. and Mrs. Mario Katakutan, proud parents of Katakutan Jezabel. Mr. and Mrs. Rinaldo B. Dinaga Sr., proud parents of Dinaga April Rose. Mr. and Mrs. Ricardos Hambalos Sr., proud parents of Hambalos Juna May. Mr. and Mrs. Norman L. Malinit, proud parents of Maata Faith Lorraine. Mr. and Mrs. Roger P. Montero, proud parents of Montero Anjime. Mr. and Mrs. Marilo D. Sambaan, proud parents of Sambaan Mark Hill. Mr. and Mrs. Jamie C. Swerty, proud parents of Swerty Alfred. Mr. and Mrs. Albert Tuastumban, proud parents of Tuastumban Ninyesa. Mr. and Mrs. Fabian Bustamante, proud parents of Bustamante Sheila May. Mr. and Mrs. Rodelo Ongab, proud parents of Ongab Mark Anthony. Congratulations, proud parents, guardians, and graduating students.
The Dean of Institute of Computer Studies, Miss Jade Ann Floriza.
To the proud parents, we are grateful and blessed to have you who unselfishly supported our students emotionally and financially over the years. Their dreams are yours too. In behalf of the faculty and staff of the Institute of Computer Studies, we would like to congratulate you all for this dream come true and express our heartfelt gratitude for entrusting your sons and daughters to us and giving them the best gift they could ever have, an education. These are the proud parents of the graduating students from the Institute of Computer Studies. Mr. and Mrs. Victoriano Pakatang, proud parents of Pakatang John Edsel. Mr. and Mrs. Brando C. Sapio, proud parents of Sapio Carl Michael. Mr. and Mrs. Marcelino P. Alab, proud parents of Alab Marvelu. Mrs. Mede A. Cabasag, proud parents of Cabasag Maricho. Mr. and Mrs. Solomon D. Cabrera, proud parents of Cabrera Serfred G. II. Mr. and Mrs. Iluminado P. Calonsag, proud parents of Calonsag Jomar. Mr. and Mrs. Anastasio C. Canolo, proud parents of Canolo John Carlo. Mr. and Mrs. Arnold de la Victoria, proud parents of de la Victoria May. Mr. and Mrs. Alexander A. Duerme, proud parents of Duerme Chelamay. Mr. and Mrs. Neil B. Laranjo, proud parents of Laranjo Din Lorin. Mr. and Mrs. Arman S. Piñas, proud parents of Piñas Bernard. Congratulations to all benefactors, parents, and the graduating students.
the Dean of Institute of Criminal Justice Education, Dr. Love H. Paluran.
Today mark another milestone in the journey through life of these graduates. When the windows of opportunities start to open and their dreams turn into realization, however, more than anything, this day is a manifestation of the strength, sacrifices, and labor that was shared by the proud parents. To our graduates, to our proud parents, muchísimas gracias con ustedes todos. These are the proud parents of the graduating students from the Institute of Criminal Justice Education. Mr. and Mrs. Rodrigo Amora, proud parents of Amora Ephraim James. Mr. and Mrs. Montelito M. Arenasa, proud parent of Arenasa Criselin G. Mr. and Mrs. Sergio Babanto, proud parents of Babanto Sheila May. Mr. and Mrs. Francisco Bigontes, proud parents of Bigontes Frank Mar. Mr. and Mrs. Peter S. Cuario, proud parents of Cuario Sherry Ann. Mr. and Mrs. Ray P. Duailungsod, proud parents of Duailungsod Ray Jr. Mr. and Mrs. Lawrence M. Heralde, proud parents of Heralde Mary Eileen. Mrs. Caridad F. Gomera, proud parents of Gomera Armijan. Mr. and Mrs. Jima Mata, proud parents of Mata Fatima J. Mr. and Mrs. Ray Namoko, proud parents of Namoko Krilek. Mr. and Mrs. Julito Obad, proud parents of Obad Geno. Mr. and Mrs. Nelson Joseph S. Palarco, proud parent of Palarco Jacob. Mr. Ricardo G. Kipanes, proud parents of Kipanes Rusbrick John. Mr. and Mrs. Danilo Saren, proud parent of Saren Dexter. Mr. and Mrs. Crescentes Sinapsap, proud parents of Sinapsap Christian. Mr. and Mrs. Teoderico Taustumban, proud parent of Taustumban Gerson. Mr. and Mrs. Carlos Kasikasi, proud parent of Kasikasi Jefferson. Mr. and Mrs. Joel Dalumus, proud parents of Dalumus Jovelin. Mr. and Mrs. Marcial De La Torre, proud parent of De La Torre Dimark. Mr. and Mrs. Samuel R. Losa, proud parent of Lausa John Mark. Mr. and Mrs. Edgar Legutum, proud parent of Legutum Edmar. Mr. and Mrs. Rogelio Luab, proud parent of Luab Rodjan. Mr. and Mrs. Felix Cagas, proud parents of Nilias Jessa. Mr. and Mrs. Gary Glenn Retuya, proud parents of Retuya Ariel John. Mr. and Mrs. Alexander Saberon, proud parent of Saberon Arjun. Mr. and Mrs. Genara Sabihon Vicente, proud parent of Vicente Carl John. Mr. and Mrs. Jeffred Omandam, proud parent of Pasa Kizarin Jade. Mr. and Mrs. Jaime Simbahon, proud parent of Simbahon Remy. Mr. and Mrs. Ronilo Krausus, proud parent of Krausus Judilin. Mr. and Mrs. Alan Dispe, proud parent of Disme Aldenry. Mr. Rogelio Banawan, proud parent of Gulbe Michael Angelo. Mr. and Mrs. Villamor Mora, proud parent of Mora Villamay. Congratulations, proud parent, guardians, benefactors, and graduating students.
The Dean of Institute of Midwifery, Mr. J. Stephen Mundong.
Sa mga parents sa ato ang mga estudyante, salamat sa pagpaeskwela sa inyong mga anak. Isip nga mga kumadrona or mga midwives diri sa ato ang institute, the Institute of Midwifery of Governor Alfonso D. Tan College. Salamat sa pag-unong sa inyong mga anak sa ilang mga activities diri sa eskwelahan. I'm proud to say nga ang inyong mga anak are now serving as frontliners karon nga panahon. Amo promise sa inyo ang mga ginikanan o benefactors nga this graduation is only the first step. Dili mi mo biya ug padayon mi sa pag-support sa inyong mga anak sa pagkaabot sa ilahang mga licenses for them to become registered midwives. For the faculty and staff of Governor Alfonso D. Tan College Institute of Midwifery, it is an honor of serving you, my dear parents, through your sons and daughters that we have molded to become registered midwives and to become the light of the world. These are the proud parents of our graduating students from the Institute of Midwifery. Mr. and Mrs. Ruel N. Alburia Sr., proud parents of Alburia Prissy Rose. Mr. and Mrs. Elso B. Aranton, proud parents of Aranton Kathleen. Mr. and Mrs. Elvis M. Bangis, proud parents of Bangis Elna Jane. Mr. and Mrs. Jujan Kabugnason, proud parents of Kabugnason Juan. Mr. and Mrs. Ricardo A. Kaliskis, proud parents of Kaliskis Jemar. Mr. and Mrs. Yori T. Caparoso, proud parents of Caparoso Edith May. Mr. and Mrs. Esperidion C. Dagundon, proud parents of Dagundon Jomin. Mr. and Mrs. Andrew A. Dalumus, proud parents of Dalumus Angie. Mr. and Mrs. Samuel B. Fernandez Sr., proud parents of Fernandez Cyril. Mr. and Mrs. Eliseo G. Fernandez, proud parents of Fernandez Evelyn. Mr. and Mrs. Virgilia F. Fuliante, proud parent of Fuliante Romnick. Mr. and Mrs. Ronnie R. Giliaduga, proud parents of Giliaduga Rochi. Mr. and Mrs. Ricardo E. Jimenez, proud parents of Jimenez Maria Rita. Mr. and Mrs. Nick M. Humawid, proud parents of Humawid Nicklin. Mr. and Mrs. Hinaro P. Langam, proud parents of Langam Era. Mr. and Mrs. Eliezer N. Malinaw, proud parents of Malinaw Genesee. Mr. and Mrs. Rolando S. Marcelo, proud parents of Marcelo Sarah May. Mr. and Mrs. Laurencio P. Obena, proud parents of Obena Jofet. Mr. and Mrs. Rodolfo V. Onito, proud parents of Onito Jemima. Mr. and Mrs. Eliserio Panganiban, proud parents of Panganiban Frederick. Mr. and Mrs. Celso M. Perez, proud parents of Perez Mariel. Mr. Renante T. Puaw, proud parent of Puaw Marlene Marie. Mr. and Mrs. Buenaventura Romagos Jr., proud parents of Romagos Riza. Mr. and Mrs. Roldan Sumampong, proud parents of Sumampong Butch. Mr. and Mrs. Walter O. Sumailo, proud parents of Sumailo Jalis. Mr. and Mrs. Wilfredo H. Tubigon, proud parents of Tubigon Jensil Ann. Mr. and Mrs. Ronald D. Chu, proud parents of Chu Tricia. Mr. and Mrs. Daniel R. Villegas Jr., proud parents of Villegas Hanilin. Mr. and Mrs. Elmer A. Villarin, proud parents of Villarin Arami. Mr. and Mrs. Mario B. Villaniza, proud parents of Villaniza Lorelei. Mr. and Mrs. Paulo Bajoyo, proud parents of Bajoyo Maryjoy. Mr. and Mrs. Saturnino L. Balos, proud parents of Balos Charmaine. Mr. and Mrs. Rodelio C. Birao, proud parents of Birao Rommel. Mr. and Mrs. Jovi Antonio Bolaquinia, proud parents of Bolaquinia Julieta. Mr. and Mrs. Edito de la Cruz, proud parents of de la Cruz Edith. Mr. and Mrs. Ricky Duco, proud parents of Duco Clark John. Mr. and Mrs. Edwin R. Epe, proud parents of Epi Aldrin. Mr. and Mrs. Alfonso O. Fuertes, proud parents of Fuertes Alma Rose Vic. Mr. and Mrs. Jimmy A. Ligsanan, proud parents of Ligsanan Christie. Mr. and Mrs. Alberto J. Lumapas, proud parents of Lumapas Charlene. Mr. and Mrs. Paulino Mancao, proud parents of Mancao Clarvel. Mr. and Mrs. Mario Pabatang, proud parents of Pabatang Roxanne. Mr. and Mrs. Ray F. Pandan, proud parents of Pandan Seri Amor. Mr. and Mrs. Romeo S. Revilla, proud parents of Revilla Irene. Mr. and Mrs. Rolando Ricaforte, proud parents of Ricaforte Lialin. Mr. and Mrs. Mariano Subing-Subing, proud parents of Subing-Subing Riami. Mr. and Mrs. Lourdes C. Fernandez, proud parents of Fernandez Hanilo. And Mr. and Mrs. Melchor C. Valdez, proud parents of Valdez Melodita. To the parents of our graduating midwives, congratulations.
Alfonso's, ladies and gentlemen, the GADTC Council of Deans. Thank Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Don't forget to hit like, heart, and share our Facebook Live for today. Don't also forget to catch us later part at 1 p.m. for our virtual 35th commencement exercises. This has been Nimrod Rosauro, and don't forget to always be the light of the world.